Excellent. All right. When I came across this beautiful soul, I knew that without a doubt, her wisdom was meant to be shared on the Elevated Life podcast, because you guys know how important the big O is around here in the Elevated Life. And we brought on the perfect expert to shed some light on how you can keep revaginating and regenerating your lady bits downstairs. So welcome to the show, Lana. We're so excited to have you.
Oh, it's so good to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, you're such a divine, sultry goddess. Just upon first glance,
you can tell.
Yeah,
you can
tell. So intimacy really does lend that energy that just shines through people who actually commit to loving and pleasuring and taking care and healing their body, but also being vulnerable enough to open up and share. So I know it's not easy to just, hey, hashtag pussy power out there. Chris's dad actually unfollowed me on social media because I talk so much about that. So it obviously takes a strong, courageous woman to be able to come and share that type of truth. So can you share a little bit about your backstory and how you got into the realm that you are?
Well, it's interesting. Most things that I get involved with or, have a passion for usually stems with some need that I have that I've fulfilled. And then I feel like this is something that can benefit all women. So before getting into the whole intimacy vaginal thing, I'm into skin. And, we have something, skin obviously is important to me because I feel like the way you show up in the world lends a lot to how you feel and also contributes to how you interact with people, the confidence that you have and all of that. So you become a better person when you feel in your best self, right? So I have the CO2 lift, carboxy is what I discovered, and we launched back in 2016. So can I just explain what that is first before I answer that question?
Absolutely.
So carboxy is really an interesting thing because it's new to the United States, but it actually has a very long history. It dates back to the 1100s in Japan when the samurai warriors would bathe in carbonic hot springs where they would fight in war. They would go and bathe in these hot springs to regenerate their skin and to heal their skin. Then the French in the 1800s developed a injectable version of carboxy. So carboxy therapy is a therapeutic use of carbon dioxide to regenerate the skin. Come back to the Japanese. They now in the 2000s developed 2020, it was like 2014, developed a gel delivery system. So we have the license to that. We have the exclusive license to that technology. So we were using it on the face and the body to regenerate the skin. It brings hydration, it brings elasticity. Then come to when I was 47. So this is back in 2018. I started experiencing a difference with how I felt sexually for like a few months. Every time, I had sex, I just would not feel Terry in the same way. And I'm thinking, okay, is this a trend, like something wrong with him? Is he shrinking? So anyway, I had this uncomfortable conversation with my gynecologist, and it was uncomfortable really more for her. I was just explaining to her what I was feeling. So anyway, she eventually explained to me what happens to a woman as we age. The blood flow slows down, the vaginal tissue gets thinner, drier. So the sensitivity changes. So that's why I wasn't feeling tearing the same way. And it would just continue to get worse. So I'm like, okay, we have to do something about this. So she actually recommended an energy-based device, which I was all for. But when I left, I thought, we have something, the CO2 lift, carboxy, which regenerates tissue. If that's what needs to happen, then let's try it down there. So we had on our ad board, we had a cosmetic gynecologist. So I talked to him about it. What do you think? And he says, yes, let's do a proof of concept. So we did this small trial, and it was a double blind. So that means the patients didn't know about what technology we're using, neither did the investigator. And we used an ultrasound gel and the carboxy gel. Well, all the women that used the ultrasound gel showed no changes in sexual function. All the women that use the CO2 lift technology showed significant changes. And one of them was actually desire, which I'll go back to. I thought that was interesting, how the placebo showed not even a change in desire. But we did biopsies, and after 10 treatments, you saw that tissue got very thick. Like, in other words, these women were in their 60s and 70s. They looked like they were in their 30s. So I used it, and it was just, I knew it was a mind over matter because we had we saw the biopsies, but what a difference that made for me. I gave to my mom, my aunts, and they went from sandpaper to butter, and it was, really exciting. No pun on the word excitement. And so we launched. We did a larger study in 2020, which was published, and we launched. That's kind of how I got into this business of, intimacy and recognizing, just speaking to more and more women and seeing that they really didn't talk about it. No one talks about it with me, really. So I thought, let me delve into this and really get this conversation going. So I'm really happy to be a part of what you're doing here. And I think it's awesome that you talk about all things, including this area.
This is obviously such an important topic. I think we all obviously inside definitely want a good sex life, but the fact that we rarely bring it up, I want to ask you, I'm going to go back just a little bit, especially as a guy, because as a guy, it's different, right? So I want to talk about maybe 3 years ago, I started discovering washing my face and cleaning my face and doing all the stuff.
AKA, he finally took my advice for the last 17 years of please wash your face.
Like it wasn't something I got in the shower, did all the normal stuff, but it wasn't like an extra skincare routine. And as I start to talk to more guys, I'm like, hey, are you guys doing this too? And most of my friends are like, for why? I'm like, you're missing out. For one, it just putting a hot, warm cloth on your face, just doing any kind of skincare, just loving on yourself makes you feel different. Makes you feel different when you go to sleep, makes you feel different when you wake up, makes you feel different when you interact. Can you talk about just a little encouragement for men? Because I know we're talking about women here a little bit, but a lot of the stuff is important for guys too. And especially for guys to start having conversations with their partners, with their spouses, because to me, Britt's health is everything. And so in our relationship, I'm typically actually the one that does the research, even on women's stuff. And so you are pulling my heartstrings right now because
Chris bought me a yoni egg and was like, here, babe, put it in.
Yoni egg, vibrator, all the stuff. I go out and do the research. I find anything someone's talking about, I'm like, we'll just try it. Worst case scenario is it's a little bit of wasted money. We'll get on to the next thing. What would you say to a guy who wants to interact with this partner, who wants to have these kind of conversations? How do we even start introducing the topic? Like how does a guy say, I know maybe a little struggle stuff, I'm not blaming you at all. Like how would he have that conversation?
First of all, I really applaud you for being the investigator. You kind of remind Terry, my husband, is like that. Even when we're going through this issue, he started looking at, because I was blaming him. we can figure this out together. But I agree, it's still an uncomfortable conversation on all areas. But I think that there comes a point in any relationship where you need to kind of take it to the next level. So if you weren't having those open conversations, it's kind of time to start, because eventually you will need to, if you want to continue growing like this, right? So I think even in the matter of skincare, like how she brought this up with you for 17 years and then you're taking it, sometimes it takes a while to penetrate, and it would be the same thing in a relationship, But I think where it comes to the matter of, we talking about intimacy, right?
Oh yeah.
Okay, so we're talking about that. It's almost like you need to have a neutral ground, like dinner, and just let's talk about our relationship, and let's talk about how you're truly feeling and how I'm truly feeling. I think that that's necessary, because even for you to have the type of quality orgasms and the quality emotion, it's almost like you have to have a clean glass. You're kind of looking at each other through two sides of this glass, and if it's muddied with lack of conversation, it almost decreases the pleasure that you experience. I think once that glass is clean and you can truly see each other, your souls communicate when you're having sexual intercourse or any of that type of intimacy. So it starts with conversation. So I think that all relationships, if you wanted to continue, eventually has to come to a point where we're going to say, babe, let's talk about this. And then in that conversation, there are truths that need to be revealed. They're physiological truths, meaning that as much as I love you and you love me and we want to be together, there are things that change in our bodies. And for men, it changes. I always say that, a man may take Viagra, recreationally in their 40s and 50s, but they may need to take it in their 60s and 70s because of blood flow. Well, there's certain things that happen with a woman that we need to check out to make sure that we improve it. And, I was hearing that one of the things is that your tissue gets thinner, you get drier, and it won't be as pleasurable. But guess what, babe? There are things that we can do. And that's kind of the conversation. But I really think it's something that eventually you're going to need to have.
Yeah, I truly believe that conversation is the foreplay. And when we host our couples retreat, we see that communication is that number one issue within the relationship, of just not feeling comfortable to even speak their truth or feeling heard by the other person. So I love the suggestion of the neutral ground. Chris and I like to go out to dinner, and we call it updating the rules. And we ask ourselves, like, how's our sex life? How is our food? How's our workout? How's our nutrition? Like, how's all the things that are contributing to our life this week? And does anything need an adjustment? Because I feel like so many couples wait until rock bottom or burnout, or just like resentment, builds and builds, instead just giving that like pressure, pressure release every week. Like, anything you want to talk about, anything that needs to change. And I think that's been one of the biggest factors to us healing some of that intimacy. Now, you talk a lot about the physical aspects of the deterioration of our vulva and all that's involved. But when I was in my 20s, a young fresh maiden meeting this lovely chap, I went through a period of absolute dryness, and not like, we started off like with a bang and it was amazing and I got him hooked, and then I was like, I'm out. Like, it hurts. It's dry. I called my mom crying. Do you dry up in your mid-20s? Like, what is happening? And through his Aquarian research, we found a technique called de-armoring, where you go in and do internal massage to release some of the emotions that were trapped. Because a lot of us have been through that #MeToo experience, and we trap a lot of those emotions within our sacral womb area. So can you also speak to the research that you found in healing some of the physical? Do you also see that there's an emotional correlation or tie to that, that expression?
Definitely. You're right. The dryness, or really typically dryness or painful sex, it can happen to women at different points in their lives. I mean, I meet a lot of young 20-year-olds who experience just what you did. And it can be it can be emotional. It can be that they're on medication, even for allergy medication. If you think about, it's drying up your nasal passage, is also drying your vaginal tissue. So there's so many antidepressants. There's so many things that can affect that area, but certainly trauma, we trap it in that area. And we talked, I don't know, maybe I was listening to something you were saying on just yoni, or when you said he bought you the yoni exact, so to massage that area. It's very therapeutic, I think, for women to kind of really investigate that. And sometimes I feel that sexual intercourse, once you start that communication, can actually release a lot of the emotions that you're holding down there. But in terms of the physiological effect of aging, whether it be, and it starts from in our 20s, actually. So from the age of 25, we know that blood flow slows down, and we know that our clitoris, which is a lot, that tissue down there, is not just what you see on the tip, but all of it is kind of, it's almost the size of a penis. All of that I'm losing the words. That tissue down there is it needs blood flow, and no amount of sex is going to keep that area going. You have to actually do other things, and thankfully there are things that we can do, like a carboxy, that keeps that area regenerated. I almost feel like I forgot the question because I'm answering it all in so many ways, but I think, what did you ask me?
No, it was about the emotional tie to the physical change in the body. Okay. But something that you said reminded me of when you take the larynx and you cut it in half and look down into it, and same with the vaginal canal, it's the exact same structure, the same print. So it's, when you talk about communication starts to heal some of those emotions, it, reminded me of that deep connection.
That I never thought of it from that angle, but it's so true. It's I can think about in my own experience, so I'm talking about just recently. So I can remember when it happened. It was actually in 2019. It was Super Bowl Sunday of 2020, because that COVID came right after that. Super Bowl Sunday. And Terry and I had some things that we were working through in our relationship, which I remember the year before I said, Terry, let's discuss this and get this off the table. So from that point of that discussion, the quality of our sex changed for the better. And then in that Super Bowl Sunday, I experienced something that it really changed our relationship. It was almost like while we were together, during the act, which, so you're talking about Super Bowl Sunday was 3 hours. Like, I remember my kids left. We were supposed to go to the Super Bowl party. They came home and we were just had to come out the room and, you know, get ourselves together. But it actually made me, I remember crying profusely, and I didn't know why I was. So it can happen at different, so you talk about that emotional things. Think about this. I'm 50. So I was, what was that? 52 minus how many years? 3 years ago. So I am in this discovery of this emotional discovery during an act, but which only made possible because of the fact that it was pleasurable. Yeah, am I making sense? So we started on this journey, making things better for me. And then in the course of conversation with Terry of some things that we had in our marriage, things just got better and better. Yeah. So definitely there's an emotional connection to the act for in the partnership as well as an individual.
Yeah, it makes me even think of the chakra alignment too. The sacral chakra is orange and the opposite color of orange. As a hairdresser, I love the color wheel. So on the opposite of the color wheel is blue, which is our throat chakra. So being able to express our intimacy, our passion, our desires, the pleasure, and being able to bring that up through the system and actually get it out into the world to someone else, i.e. your partner. I think there's just a huge correlation there. And I think it's so beautiful that we're able to shine a light on that. Now, I'm curious, can you use the product that I've seen so much, all the skincare on your Instagram, it's so beautiful, like feeling all the things, and we put it on the vagina, but can you put it on the penis? Like, is that an option for guys?
Definitely. So I have to send you, so you'll be getting this for you to try it. But so the face product can be used anywhere on the body. And for the men, for men, it can be used on the penis, because you think of blood flow. What they've discovered is that for a man, it can actually increase the shim score by 5 points. So if a man is in low to moderate ED, he can, by simply using 5 treatments of the CO2 lift back to back, I mean, whenever I say back to back, every day for 5 days, what the men have gone out of that, improved that. So it changes their shim score, which is a big deal. So yeah, and it's localized as opposed to taking something systemic like a Viagra or, you know, Cialis. Here it is, you're putting it directly on the penis. So yes, you're going to make smoother skin. The testicles are going to feel fuller and look nicer, but more importantly, it's going to increase blood flow. So yes, you can use on the face, on the penis for the man. The vaginal is a little different, the CO2 lift V. The reason is the pH. So the pH on that is going to be ideal for the vulvovaginal tissue. So you're talking about 4 to 4.5, as well as a little different formulation. Japanese mugwort is included, that which has things that address areas, some of the challenges that we may face there. So it's a little different, but yes, the CO2 lift for the face and body can be used anywhere for the woman and for the man. The V for the vulvovaginal.
I think that's so smart to bring up the pH, because so many times we just look at the products on the shelf and we're like, oh, that should be safe for us. But I think we're all waking up to the fact that they're not considering our health and our well-being, and the pH as a hairdresser matters so much. Can you overdo it? Can you just like, I can't stop, it feels so good?
You can't. Because you see what the mechanism of action is. It's simply CO2. You know, carbon dioxide, which, you know, it's a gas, we exhale it. When we take it into our bodies, what it does, it just triggers a series of responses to rebalance. So in order to rebalance it, just, this is simplifying it. By putting CO2 in, you have to put oxygen, more oxygen needs to be rushed there to kind of rebalance the scales. If you think of it from a simplified explanation, but once CO2 gas is introduced, is going to now trigger oxygen-rich blood in that area, which is going to increase the size of the capillaries, is going to get rid of waste, is going to bring all the nutrition in, which includes hydration, which is a big thing for our skin anywhere, because you're looking at that whole grape raisin analogy. If you can keep the grape full of water so it doesn't shrivel up like that raisin, that's like our skin, or, you know, vulva skin, facial skin, penis skin. We don't want anything shriveled. Right?
From sandpaper to butter, baby.
From sandpaper to butter, yes.
Okay, I have one more question about the carbon and oxygen. So I was reading about your product and how it helps to work with skin, burns, basically repairing the skin, as you just shared. One of the products that we've used prior to knowing anything about your product is O3 to heal the burns, the cuts, the skin, all the things. So can you talk on the difference maybe between like having that much oxygen versus also having carbon in the mix?
Okay, so carbon dioxide is only there to trick the body into producing oxygen, pushing it into that area. That's the only benefit of the carbon dioxide. It's a natural way to get that response. So for instance, if I was to compare it to, say, an energy-based device that you're going to go to a doctor's office, they're going to put a laser or a radio frequency on. That's controlled damage to the skin to now force the body to start healing, right? This is doing the same thing without damaging the skin. So once you put it on, so you're talking about it going in, it touches going to the muscle. So your body is actually rushing the oxygen in that area that you apply the CO2 gel mask. I'm not familiar with that other product you mentioned. Tell me a little bit about that so I understand how to compare it.
It's just basically oxygen put into something like olive oil or something. They suspend it in olive oil, and you just would use it as like almost looks like Vaseline. And so you put on, it has that real,
just like pure oxygen.
If you've smelled pure oxygen before, like you've been into a medical place where they have oxygen, it's that smell comes across immediately. So it's just adding more oxygen to the area. I love the fact that yours is tricking the body, because we want to work with the body's mechanisms. The more often you can work with the natural body's mechanisms, even if you got to trick a little bit, you got to tell a little couple white lies. I mean, our body is so incredible. It already can produce all the cool drugs and all the cool chemicals that we need. We just sometimes have to help it along because, like you said, we age. There's parts of us that slowly do deteriorate, but it doesn't mean it doesn't work. It's just, it means that we've got to introduce something new to it so we can go, oh, hey, I remember I can do that. Let me help you out. Let's heal that. This is going to be awesome.
And I love that it doesn't do it for the body, because as you see people taking the supplements or the things that, or really not the supplements, the medications that do it for the body says, oh, I'm lazy, I don't have to do it anymore. So I can imagine if you're taking the Viagra or all the other stuff, the second you stop, the body's like even worse before you started, because it's been on vacation. Like, oh, I'm out, I'm good.
Sure. It's like the guys who take testosterone. You got a lot of guys now taking testosterone replacement therapies. And when you end up messing with the hormones a lot, if you don't nail it correctly, if your doctor messes up a little bit, once you go off that, your body's like, well, I didn't need to produce it. And so there's such a huge come down. And it's just, I mean, it's unbelievable as a guy, how when your testosterone levels lower so much, how moody you can be, but almost like you're PMSing. It's almost like you're irritated.
Welcome to our world.
You're not happy with it. You walk by the mirror like, oh my gosh, I'm not attractive, where you may have never thought that before in your whole life. It's just this, and it's funny because like you get that sympathy for the female. You're like, oh my gosh, like I didn't realize this is what you're going through. As a guy, how is it, or what's some of the signs that we should be looking for to know, like, hey, this is a clue. I need to start having a conversation with my partner because she's going through something. Is there something as a guy that we can look for, especially as she ages, especially as she goes through menopause and those kind of things? What should we be looking for, and how do we introduce that into our conversation? Because to me, it's super important. Like I want Britt to feel her best. He wants
to get laid, is what he's saying.
Yes.
I mean, when Britt feels her best, I feel my best. So it's like I want to be helping. So it's just, what do we look for as she age? Are there certain signs where I should be like, okay, it's all right, we need to go out there, we need to have that dinner, we need to have that talk?
First of all, I love your relationship. Really, you guys are such a great couple, and I love the kind of chemistry that you have. I think that, depending on where you are in your life, the aging is going to come. So a woman may not necessarily recognize it right away, especially if she's not in tuned. For instance, let me just tell you this. When I got married, my mother said to me, so I'm married now 26 years, and mommy says, to keep your husband happy, there are two things that you need to do for him every day. You need to feed him and you need to give him sex. And I really did that. And I think that's one of the reasons why we're still married. However, when I got into after kids, it just became, the feeding was harder because I didn't have time. And then the sex was like, oh my God, to put on my to-do list, because it was not my focus. And when she told me this, I didn't really understand the benefit to myself. So I thought it was for him. So when I had the conversation again, which I had now in my early 40s, I said, Mommy, how do I even know if I'm having good sex? And she said this to me that really changed my life. She said, good sex is like playing tennis. It's just a different set of balls. You have to focus on hitting the ball. No, let me tell you something. Why that resonated with me, because I thought of like Serena Williams. You see her when she plays. She doesn't even care how her face looks. She just hits it's about connection. So it kind of changed my perspective onto what the reason for having sex. It's not something for him. It's for us. It's a way for us to connect with each other. It's a way for me to connect with myself. And so that kind of changed the game. So I totally had a different appreciation for sex after that. We started connecting and really like plugging into each other. And even the way I acted during sex it wasn't an act anymore. Like that was an act before because I was performing. Now I was just allowing, you know what I'm saying? And just really being. And so I enjoyed it more. So that's what allowed me to recognize when things started to change. So oftentimes, if a woman doesn't see it in the same way, she may not recognize when things change. She just knows that it's just not, she may not even talk about it, because I really didn't even talk about it with Terry. That's the thing. It's so gradual in life that you even forget how sex used to be, unless someone brings your attention back there. So in terms of having the conversation, I think if you're listening to this podcast, start the conversation now. The fact of the matter is that, as a gynecologist said, a woman's true age is seen in her vagina. And the reason for that is because on your face, you're taking care of it with skincare products. You're really not doing anything for down there, but you need to, because eventually it's going to show up, and it can show up at any point in your relationship. So start having the conversation now. I believe in prevention is better than cure. So start taking care of that. Doing something on a regular basis. CO2 lift is one way. And the reason why, obviously I'm with the company and it's something that I have enjoyed myself, but it's something you can do at home, that you can just do, even if once a month you do something for your vulva vagina. I think it's really going to help you. It's also for us a way to connect mind body. By taking care of it, it's almost like a celebration. We're celebrating womanhood. We're expecting intimacy to be enjoyable and fun. So we approach it in a very different way. But the conversation with your partner should be something you want to start now, and even talk about the fact that these things are going to happen and what you can do to prevent it in the meantime. Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah, I truly agree that the gift of sex is the present moment, and actually being here, not in our mind, but in our bodies and in this moment. And I think that's what's so healing. You talk about using this CO2 V-lift or lift V-lift. My dyslexia is kicking in.
Yes.
You're amazing product. We've talked about using the yoni egg. Also, Kegels are a great thing. But one thing I was introduced to last year that I had no idea was an option was a vaginal steam, or basically a vajacial. And it was one of the most relaxing. I mean, I can understand how people would be very uncomfortable with that if they're disconnected from their body. But as someone who's spent over a decade just exploring and cultivating and breaking through all the traumas and the stigmas and the labels of being a whore and all the things in between, I allowed myself to fully relax. And it was one of the most wild, not sexual experiences of like getting taken care of in a way that, I mean,
can you tell what that is?
You do a great job.
Can you talk about what does that entail? Like, what do you, are you naked? Are you clothed? Is someone with you? Like, how does it work?
I mean, are you trying to do one for me later?
If we need to, I'm down, put me in.
The gist of it really was, I was going to get sugared, and then they offered this
Sugars like waxing, hair removal.
Correct. I was doing some hair removal, and they offered this vajacial steaming package where they did a light steam to the vagina. They did like a steam fucking machine.
Okay, steam machine. I'm trying to picture it.
Water, baby.
Herbs, do they put herbs in it? They put herbs and stuff?
I don't know that there was in that. It felt pretty pure and pretty clean. I didn't smell anything. They did use an electrical zapper situation. Like I learned it in esthetician, but that's out the window. I focused on hair. But the little glass zapper thing that goes on the skin. Yep. Yeah. They used that to make sure they closed all the cuticles or follicles around where they'd ripped out all the hair. And they did like different types of scrubs and cleansers around all the outside area. Nothing went inside. I feel like that should be said. Nothing went inside, but it was just pampering your lady
Yeah.
bits.
Yeah.
I'll show you later.
I'm curious though. So we've talked a couple of things about what people can do. What are some of the mistakes that people might be doing? Britt's obviously talking about not putting anything inside there that maybe some sort of form, which I think a lot of people
Like
do.
bad pH products, like the deodorant. I used to be like, why does it smell? Deodorant spray. Why does
Yeah.
it smell worse? Like, it was a bad cycle. And when we went all natural, non-toxic, that was one of the things, that had to go. We had to find new ways. Well, I just cleaned my own internal diet too, and that's not even an issue. So maybe we can speak on that. Like, how do you work with that?
Something, it's interesting that you say that about smell, because I think that's one of the contributing factors to why people think of the vulva vagina as dirty. I mean, it has a smell, to me, it has a healthy smell, like rain. When rain is going to come, that kind of smell, it's a earthy smell, which is, I mean, you can tell me as a guy, I mean, that's like welcome home.
Yes, it's definitely like welcome home. Like, yeah.
You don't want it to smell like roses, so that, I think that's something that people need education on. There's no need to change the smell. Once you're healthy, it has a healthy smell, which is not a perfume smell, right? But yeah, you don't want to be putting things in, like, for instance, even douches. We don't encourage that because we don't want to change the microbiome down there. You don't want to change the pH down there. You just want to wash it with water. You know what I'm saying? Not even the soap. I started from, I think probably in my 40s, I started just using plain like soap that doesn't have a smell, because on my whole body, you know what I'm saying? Because I don't want anything to change the pH and to give me any kind of infection or anything like that. So the CO2 lift V is a little different. Yes, we're putting it inside. So people are like, oh, we're putting something inside. Well, you're putting something that is going to rebuild the tissue, and it is safe. The pH is safe. We've done so many studies on there. In fact, we're in the process of doing another one, which we added as an indication, stress incontinence, which is when you cough or sneeze and you pee. Sometimes as women, because of atrophy, that can happen. Well, we can change that. And so we're doing another one. So it's safe. It's recommended by your gynecologist. It's nothing good. It's not going to harm you. However, when you use it, and you asked me if you can use too much of it, you can't use too much of it. It's just what you can afford, or what you need. You don't need more than, for the vaginal, you want to do a series of 5 to 10. And you want to do that, try and do it as close as possible in time. So maybe over 2 weeks to do the 10 if you have a lot of symptoms, but minimum would be 5 that someone would use. And after that, when they notice how things feel, they just can maintain it with monthly treatments. For a guy, as we talked about, 5 in a row for his penis. For the face, once a week for at least 6 weeks, because that changes the elasticity to 26% in the skin. Hydration, and then once a month to maintain. So the maintenance is pretty simple, just once a month. I can tell you for myself, I do the vaginal once a month, or when we're doing like a sex weekend, I'll do it. It just kind of puts me in that whole vibe of it. And let me tell you something, you talk about lubrication and opening up the floodgates of heaven. It's a different level. Even when I used it initially, I didn't think I had a lubrication problem. However, it's definitely it's back to when I was in my 20s, like that. It's like, overflow. You know what I'm saying? It's just juicy.
It's juicy. Yeah.
That's what. So for the V, but for the face, I do it now every 2 weeks, just because I have the skin condition recently diagnosed, and I can't do anything else on my skin, energy base. So I use it every 2 weeks just to keep my skin looking.
Well, it's working, because you are absolutely glowing. You are such a goddess. And I'm curious, I've been listening to your accent this whole time. I want to know more about you. Like, you've created this incredible product. You're learning so much and doing this amazing work, but I want to know more about you.
Oh, well, I grew up in Jamaica. So I was born in Washington, D.C. My parents were in university. My mother was in dental school, but I moved back to Jamaica when I was 4 or 5, and I grew up there. So, they're both business people. Mommy had her own practice. Daddy had he provided milk and juice to all the supermarkets and the hotels. So we had a dairy production plant. And, I've always known that I wanted to have my own business. In fact, my first business, I was 14 years old. I graduated from high school at 15. So I started early. And then, Daddy always said, find a need and fill it. And So that's kind of where I was looking for things that to help people. So I had 14, I had a bun business, then I had a pig farm, and then I went to school, I know, selling jerk pork. And no, by the way, I'm vegan, so I don't even eat meat. But
Same.
but I did went to school, accounting, worked in accounting and finance, and then went back to school, studied nutrition, and had weight loss companies for the last 20 something years. And then eventually got into the skincare, where I had a med spa, and that's how I discovered carboxytherapy. And then we launched it in 2016.
What a go-getter.
Yeah. Okay. So I love powerful women. Powerful women. I mean, it's definitely the reason. One of the big reasons why I'm with Britt. She's such a go-getter, like you're talking about. As guys, I love picking y'all's brains, especially when I have you in a moment like this. How can guys support women who are ambitious? I think that we're finding more and more women sort of waking up to the fact that, holy hell, I can do a bunch of stuff. I'm smart.
Pussy
I'm,
power.
I'm driven, you know, especially when women start tapping into that. That's what one of the big things that I've noticed. When women start tapping into that femininity side that they have, getting more into their sexual power, a lot of things change. Like they just, I won't say come out of their shell, but you can, they're more fierce, and they're
unfuckable with.
Yeah, you definitely have that feeling of like, oh damn, okay, that's where we're at. How, as partners, can we support ambitious, driven women? Is there extra stuff that we need to be doing? Are there things that we need to be saying? Or like what are the needs, and how can the partner come in and sort of fulfill that need, just to make sure that so that we don't need to have always the conversation. I don't need a Brit to tell me how she feels necessarily. I know at this point. Like, I know when we have a big week, when she's going through a launch, when we're having an event, I know how it's going to be. I know what that night's going to be like. I know how she's going to crash right after for a little bit. Like, I know that. So what would you say to the people who have those partners who are doing those things, have multiple passions, they have multiple businesses? How can we best support y'all?
Oh, I love that question. I love, coming from a point that my husband and I, we've been in business forever. In fact, it was interesting. Last year, I had a presentation with some investors, and the team that prepared us said, "Don't let him know that people know that he's your husband." So I'm like, "Okay, we have the same last name. Make them think he's your brother." And I said, "Why?" So come to find out why is because people are investors, particularly with husband and wives, because there's so much friction that can happen. They just feel like it's a volatile situation. Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
However, so I think there's definitely something to when you have a partner that supports each other. And Terry has always supported me. And so, okay, so to answer, how has he done it? I think it's just allowing them to shine, allowing her to shine, you know, in her own right, you know, just first of all, for me personally, you know, Terry, we work together. So he's the support end of what it is that we do. I recognize that in our relationship, even working together, is how we speak to each other is very important in work. So even though, for instance, I'm the CEO, I don't boss him. I don't try to boss anyone anywhere around, although I've heard differently from other people. But with Terry, I mean, I speak.
We just know what we want, okay?
Right, exactly. But I tend to start with babe. I start with certain softer words before, and then he supports me by just speaking kind. So we speak kindly to each other throughout the day, because in the night we try not to bring business into our bedroom. So then in the bedroom, we're going to do bedroom stuff, because that's a big part of our relationship. So supporting your go-getter partner, to me, means just allowing her to be, giving her space, just like you said, after an event. Same with me. I just don't want to talk, and not taking it personally that you don't, you know, what is it I'm doing wrong? No, it's just, I just need some space. Even when I travel, Terry doesn't keep calling me, you know, he allows me to be. And then when we're together, he's the boss, because I feel like sometimes for women who are in these roles, we make decisions all the time. I want to be controlled when I'm in the bedroom. I want to feel like someone is taking over, and that's just alone, just in my head, it just turns me on, you know? So, and I don't know if that's just unique to me. I feel like, but you can speak to this, but I think that, you know, relationship, when you have all this kind of male dominated, which is really what we do when we're in this role, to get into our feminine role, we need to have that feeling of, you know, that someone is going to take care of us, and I want someone to take away the control in that aspect of my life. I don't know if that's true of you, but that's what I would answer from my perspective.
I definitely agree with that. We're constantly making decisions, and I'm a Libra, so what the fuck? It's like not our strong suit, you know? It's like I want them all, and yes to everything. So I feel like we're in an intimate partnership to be safe, to feel supported, and I think that letting the man be the man in the bedroom, and not, you know, on the weekend, like bend over, bitch. You know what I mean? Like we can slice it up. But in general, I absolutely agree. It feels so safe to come to a place where you don't have to be in control. You don't have to be making the decisions. You can fully trust and let go. And the surrendering part is tapping into the femininity. So I think it gives us that opportunity to say, I fully trust you. And that builds a whole nother level of bond in and of itself.
This is something important. And anyone, especially guy that's listening, you have to clue into this point right here, because I cannot tell you how much it will save your relationship. If you have a go-getter, she is thinking nonstop. The demands on her are so damn big. I mean, the amount of messages and DMs and everything that Britt gets, it's nauseating. And so you have to remember that what she wants to do in the bedroom, besides feel safe, which doesn't mean you rough her up necessarily, not trying to hit her in the face or something crazy like that. What she wants to do is turn her brain off. And so you're going to support her with yourself by letting her do that. And you do it with the safety of your arms. You do it by, I've totally got you right now. All you have to do is just fully relax and be here with me. And it's just something different that happens. Again, it doesn't necessarily have to be aggressive, although it can be, that can be fun. But it's just, you match her where she's at, and you can watch. You watch the way she breathes, watch the way she looks at you, watch what her body is telling you. It's not something where you just, how fast can I orgasm? Well, because what a waste of time that is. You can jerk off by yourself in the bathroom. When you're with your partner, you're with them. You shouldn't even be thinking about the orgasm. You should be thinking about, oh my God, I don't want this moment to even stop. I just want to be here for the next month. I mean, can we just be in this beautiful shared moment and like have this intimacy? Because sometimes it's just laying in bed. Maybe it's soft music on, maybe it's incense or a candle or something, and it's just cuddling. It's just holding each other. And that can be just as powerful as sex. That can be just as much of a turn on as sex. You have to remember that women are emotional beings. And so when you let them know you're loved, when you let them know I've got you, and hey, you can, all that pressure you've been feeling, all that stress for this next time that we're together, take it off. Take it off, let that stuff go down out. And when you take those clothes off, the stress goes off with it. When you hop in this bed, it's just us together. And we don't have to talk about any of that crap. It doesn't matter how anything's going right now. Let's just be here and be together. And I feel like guys don't realize that. We don't, it takes us forever to wake up to that kind of knowledge. And it's just being with that partner, because she can blow your mind. Once the woman's mind is relaxed, I mean, what she can do with her body and how she can give you in energy wise is something else. And it's so fulfilling. It's like the freaking Avatar when they put their little tails together or whatever. I mean, there's something that happens, and that bond is what creates real love. It's her knowing I can just be me, and you're accepting me for all that I am, wrinkles, stretch marks, everything. It's like I can be vulnerable.
Yeah, when a man worships a woman, the woman will always be there, and the man doesn't have to worry about that. So they just need to change their perspective and their approach on that.
Oh my gosh, Britt, and just something I wanted to, you brought up in terms of even the steaming. I think one of the things that you experience, and I think is important for women, is just relaxing. Relaxing is a big part of our enjoyment. You know, if we should truly just allow, you know, so you don't have to think about, you know, if you're going to fart, you don't think about, you don't care. You want to be in that safe space with your partner that you can feel like you can just truly be. And that's a big part of the enjoyment. So that's why we have to get our physiological side up working so that we can allow our mind, which is the biggest sex organ that's on our bodies, to really allow us to enjoy the act of intimacy, which is so important for not only for the partnership, but again, to connect with yourself.
Yeah.
The other thing I've noticed too is that as the sex gets better, and not necessarily just the physical act, but the whole movement, the mental movement, the emotional movement, the spiritual movement, once you really get into it, it makes the business grow. It makes the conversations you have with other people.
That's magic I'm doing.
You know, you attract new people into your life, that you attract opportunities. It's wild how when it starts lining up, you start really caring about each other, and you really start thinking about each other outside the bedroom when you're not together. And you're not ragging on them. How come you're not doing this? And what about this bullshit? Because all that's going to come into the bedroom too. So if you let all that go, into your point with talking about speaking kinder words, it sounds like, oh yeah, I would do that. How many relationships are actually doing it? As we talk to more and more people, they're just assholes to each other. Like, hey, you're never, and they're like, I don't know why we're not having sex. I'm like, I do. I know exactly. If you're going to be an asshole, your partner, it's going to be tough. There's going to be that mental, emotional wall that gets put up, and then the physical's gone. I mean, you can, once you cross that boundary enough, or make the person not feel beautiful, or talk about their body in a certain way that's negative, like, you signed up for this. Like, you're here. Like, you better appreciate that thing. You better tell it, this is the best body I've ever seen in my whole life. Oh my gosh, please don't change a thing. And if you do, I'll still love it. Whatever you're doing, I'm into. It's crazy how we can get so caught up in our ego, and so caught up in just, especially as guys, as what we think we want, or what we get shown on movies or in porn and stuff like that. And like, the really good sex doesn't look like that. Doesn't look like that at all. And you do make weird
I was
faces.
gonna say there is farting.
Yeah. And you know, it's weird. You know, you make those werewolf faces.
It's so true. Oh my God, I love you both. Yeah, so true. And that's it's so the whole act of sex starts from the time you wake up. It's about your relationship. I think just sex is just the bridge that connects your soul to each other, you know, and that's the way you stay connected. But for you to even cross onto that bridge, you have to be on the bridge. And to be on the bridge, it means speaking with respect and kindness to each other and love, so that when that time comes, which hopefully is a regular type of bridge that you're going to cross over into, that you can meet, and it would be a wonderful, pleasurable, relaxing, enjoyable, sometimes mind-blowing, just memorable experience in every time you're together.
Oh, I feel like that was just the perfect like closure to this beautiful talk. You have shared so much wisdom that I know our elevators are going to absolutely love, and shining a light in the dark places that need to be illuminated, because hello, it's like the number one thing. Like, we're here because of it. So I don't know why we continue to make this topic taboo. So thank you for having courage to speak your truth. It's because her pussy's open, her throat's open, and she don't give a damn. She's going to tell the world about the truth. And I'm so excited, because if I'm going to look like you after using this gel, I'm fucking pumped. Like, you are so stunning. And I'm just so grateful to have connected today.
Thank you so much, both of you, for having me. You guys are a wonderful couple. I wish you all the best.
Thank you so much. So where can I know everyone's like, I want this pussy gel. Like, where can our subscribers connect with you, learn more about it?
So first of all, our Instagram handles are CO2 Lift and then CO2 Lift V. Those are two. My personal is the Lana Kerr, but they can actually get the product at co2lift.com. I was going to ask you if you wanted to have some type of discount code for your followers, which we can certainly create.
Oh, absolutely.
Yes, we call it the Elevated Life 15 for 15% off. So I'll give you.
Oh my gosh,
that.
True queen right here. True queen.
And then of course we have the giveaway book on the secret to the big O, which you'll provide them with the link for that. But if they want, and any questions at all, you know, our social media are really on top of things. DM us for any questions that you may have, but certainly get that and try it. I mean, I think it's definitely something that you will find very valuable in your life, your relationship with yourself, as well as your partner.
Oh, Goddess Lana, you are incredible. We're so excited to give away your new book that is just about to be released, The Big O. Oh my gosh. OMG. So excited about it. Literally just so grateful for all the wisdom. Now, we always love to ask our guests before we go, what does living an elevated life mean to you?
Oh, I think it definitely goes in line with my motto, which means it's just be better. You know, I really feel like every day we can be better. And so that will keep elevating our lives. If we make it an intention to just be better today than we were yesterday in one aspect of our lives, or if we can do more than one aspect, that would be great. And in that way, we will definitely be living an elevated life.
Love it.
And mic drop. Oh my gosh. She's got that pussy wisdom right there. I'm telling you, something magical happens when you tap into your own power like that. And, you know, also as a creative, I feel like it's so important to connect the two, because as we create externally in the world, it starts from an internal idea, and it bursts itself in the womb. So I just love this conversation so much. I cannot wait to see all the things that you create. I can't wait to get my hands on that cream.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, it's gonna be so fun. And yeah, thank you so much for all the wisdom that you shared. I would love to know what everyone's biggest takeaway is. So please make sure you DM us, let us know, and share this podcast, because everybody needs to know it.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you guys for tuning in. We'll catch you next week. Peace.
Peace.